Welcome back to the podcast. Matt Scaletti here. Challenges Build Champions podcast. We're helping ambitious people build more freedom with their money, health, and time. That's our focus. Freedom is our focus. With that, I've been spending a ton of time researching, learning, meeting wealthy, rich people. And I want to bring to you, there's so many books, there's so many podcasts, there's so many biographies, there's so many people you can reach out to in your area to learn about how wealthy people, rich people, people with a high net worth, people with a lot of income, how did they get there? What did they do? Because there's clearly a difference between somebody that has a ton of wealth, a ton of income flow, a ton of business success, and somebody who doesn't. And a lot of times they could live on the same street, they could live in the same area. What is the difference? And that is what we're going to talk about today. This is 3 ways rich people think differently. I think the key word is think, because as we think, so we are. When the mindset, when the thought processes are aligned, that will create actions that will lead to more material success. These are the top 3 ways rich people think different. I was just talking to a few people recently, and this guy gave me a quote, and I told him, I'm going to use this on the podcast. And he's a very wealthy guy, has done extremely well in business. And he said through his circles and himself, he learned from his mistakes in the past, that one of the key ways rich people think different is they buy income and assets before toys. He said, I used to buy toys when I started getting paychecks back in the day. And the toys for him, meaning, I think he bought a jet ski back in the day. He bought a really nice car. Things with motors and wheels depreciate very quickly for the most part. For the most part. Not all. I know there's some collector cars that can go up in value, but for the most part, they go down in value. And he said that the people in his circle that have become extremely wealthy buy income slash assets. They buy assets before they buy toys, which are just liabilities basically in disguise. Whatever those assets are, he said, to find your own. Some people like the stock market, some people like real estate, some people like dividend paying stocks. He said, whatever it is, learn about all of it and then figure out what works for you. But he said, the one thing that I know works is buying assets before the toys. And if you do that consistently, his words, not mine, he said, then you'll have enough income from the assets to buy the toys. And I thought, well, crap, that makes a ton of sense. That's awesome. That is the first way rich people think different. They buy assets and income producing assets before toys. The number 2 way, this is so interesting because I think this maps over to health as well. And I know we talk a lot about health on this podcast. Rich people think in decades and not days or months. And if you think about it with healthy people, and I'm not talking about somebody that lost 80 pounds in a month. I'm talking about somebody who lost weight and has kept it off, sustained that for decades. What are they doing? Most of the time, and I have 2 examples from 2 gentlemen I actually met recently. Most of the time, the people that are healthy long term, they focus on the long term. It's not a pill they're taking and they lose all this weight in a second, because the habits don't change. Whenever you get something quickly, whether it's a surgery or taking pills, I'm not poo-pooing it all, but I'm saying this. If the habits don't change, eventually you're just going to end up where you were. And the people that are thinking in decades, they're thinking, what are the small habits I can change that will make me healthier in 5, 10, 20, 30 years? Not what can I do, boom, right this second, that's going to fix everything. Because first off, then you don't appreciate it. When it comes too easy, we don't appreciate it. The things that are a little more difficult and you have that struggle and you have some setbacks and you overcome it, then you appreciate it. Then you're grateful. Then you just are oozing this blessing because of all you went through to get there. Rich people think in decades, not days or months. Warren Buffett famously, and our good friend Morgan Housel wrote this in The Psychology of Money. Warren Buffett earned the majority of his wealth after the age of 60. It might have even been 65. I'm not saying if you're here and you're 22 years old, you're like, oh, I want to earn the majority of it at 60 or 65. But the point is, I don't want that for you either. But the point is, he thought in decades and he didn't think about what's an investment that I can make to get me rich in the next 4 days. He thought, what's an investment I can make to get me rich in 4 decades? That's the difference. And love him or hate him, anything about him, the man has built wealth over time and he's sustained it over the course of what, 40, 50 plus years? Rich people think in decades, not in get rich quick crap or thinking in days or months. They have a much longer time horizon. The third and final way on this video, we're going to talk about how rich people think differently is this. This is so interesting. And I have talked to actually many different individuals about this. For the most part, they optimize for freedom instead of status. I've been around a few through some different organizations in this area that are very wealthy, 5, 10 million and up. And they don't care what anyone thinks of them. They care what they think of them. They care what their spouse thinks of them, their kids think of them. But for the most part, they don't care what anyone thinks of them. Whether they're driving a 15-year-old Honda or a 2-year-old Lamborghini, which, by the way, none of them had, because they didn't care about that. They cared about what was actually important to them internally. Not can I impress my neighbor, or can I impress this business person, or can I impress somebody that I don't really care about, but I want to try to impress. It wasn't about that. They were so centered in who they were that they were optimizing for their own freedom, as we talk about on this podcast, instead of status. And one guy, we had a conversation about fake rich versus rich. And he was talking about how you have the Instagram rich, where you have these people actually doing this, sneaking in somehow or renting a plane for 30 minutes so they can shoot a couple videos and say that they own it. And he said the difference is most of the time, this is according to this guy that I was talking to, and I'm not going to say his name for his privacy's sake, but the fake rich are normally louder with it. And if you see a Lamborghini rolling down the street, you have no clue what that person's worth is. You have no idea. All you know is they bought or leased or rented a very expensive car. That's all you know. You know nothing about their income, their net worth, nothing. And from being in these circles again, in most areas in the United States where I've talked to very wealthy people, they just don't care about this stuff. They care way more about their time freedom, about their health, about the money that can lead them to more freedom of time and health, spending time with their spouse, their kids, their family, their friends, vacations, doing things for other people, donating time, donating money. They're optimizing for freedom instead of status. So again, for this episode, I'm sure there's a ton of these, but 3 ways rich people think different. Number 1, they buy assets before toys. And a lot of times those assets produce income to them, and eventually they use the income to buy the toys. Number 2, they think in decades, not days or months. And number 3, they optimize for freedom instead of status. They don't care what other people think about them, especially people that they're never going to see again. They care about their internal happiness and their freedom for themselves and their families. I hope you got some great info out of this. Top 3 ways rich people think differently. We're talking about money and freedom a lot over the next few weeks. I hope you're enjoying it. If you are, please like, please subscribe, please reach out, please comment. I want to hear what your thoughts are, and I want to keep giving you the best content on the internet, period. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week.